Hello everyone, John from Gaming in the Wild here, and something that comes up a lot in my Games of the Year season videos is that people want to know more about all of the small, obscure games that almost made my list. People have a special interest in the lesser known games that they might have missed out on in the hustle and bustle of the gaming year. Enough people asked that I decided to make this video for you. It's a look at some of those lesser known indie games that came out in 2025 that I'd like to try and put on your radar. I'm sure you will have heard of some of them, but I'd be very surprised if you know them all, because all of the games on my list were made by just a handful of people, and many of them were solo dev labors of love. A couple of them have an independent publisher, but most of them were self-published, and many of these games have just a couple of hundred reviews on Steam, which I think is a useful yardstick for their place in the popular consciousness. To give you a bit of context, Silksong, which just won the Player's Choice Award at the Steam Awards, has 130,000 reviews. Hades 2 was another really big game, debatably indie, but that has 58,000 positive reviews. By contrast to that, the least known game that I'm going to talk about with you today has only 108 reviews, which is 0.1% of Silksong's popularity. So I think we can all agree that these are games that deserve a little more love and attention, and there are some wild games in here, from a cryptic, mysterious, switch-flicking logic game, to an alien TV station channel-hopping simulator, to a vibey bog witch detective mystery. I really hope that you find something to play, so open up your wish list and get ready to add some games, and if you do find something you like the look of in this video, then please like it. It helps other people find the video too. You can always sub to the channel to get more from me in your feed, including the monthly look ahead video at the indie games that are coming out every single month of the year, and I will tell you all about this channel's Patreon community at the end, including how new patrons get a free code for 1000 times Resist, Ultros or Citizen Sleeper, 3 of my favourite indie games ever made. And with all of that said, let's get into it. This is my indie hidden gems list for 2025. Let's start with the game that has the least Steam reviews and go up from there. Wonder Stars is a game that has only 112 reviews on Steam. It has a very positive rating. It's actually published by Australian publisher Fellow Traveller, who've had a few hits in their time, but this one just didn't catch on in the same way. It was made by a 3-person team called Paper Castle Games, and it's a really enjoyable mix of anime-style visual novel, fun turn-based battles where you learn words that you deploy and chain together to form attacks, like starting with a simple kick but adding big, sharp, flaming and bloody to get a big, sharp, flaming, bloody kick. And if you like anime stuff like Dragon Ball, I think you will really appreciate the visual style of this game. It has a ton of personality. I really enjoyed the story, which is a little bit like the Luke Skywalker trajectory of being a kid on a desert planet who gets into events much bigger than them. And I think this game is perfect for RPG fans who don't want to do a big metaphor type game, but want something a little more playful and breezy, but with that gameplay that they love. That's Wonder Stars, out now for PC, Mac, and the Nintendo Switch. Next is Blippo Plus, and now I cover all kinds of games on this channel, but I do have a special place in my heart for the real weird games. Games that throw convention out of the window, take a big idea and just go for it. And I think that you'll play few weirder games this year than Blippo. Blippo is a game that was originally made for the tiny handheld Playdate console with its crank used to switch through the channels, and it is a low interactivity channel surfing game. You flip through public access style TV programs that are all odd or interesting or bizarre in their own way. The channels are being picked up from a faraway planet called Blip, and Blippo Plus is the TV service. And as you flick through these channels, you can watch as much or as little of a program as you want, but each program reveals different aspects of Blippian culture. And if you watch enough, then new channels will unlock and you get to see even more of it. And as you continue to watch, it becomes apparent that something is going on that's more than it seems. The Playdate version was obviously black and white and very, very crushed down to fit on that console screen, but the Steam version uses the full video clips. And it really is quite a ride. It's textural, it's experimental, it's theatrical, and it's completely unique. Just know that you will be doing a lot of watching, and what you're watching is genuinely strange. This game is out now on Playdate and on Steam, where it has only 188 reviews in total. That's Blippo Plus. The next game on this list is Cipher Zero, and the idea of a code-breaking puzzle game with almost zero tutorialization sounds a bit like my nightmare, but something about Cipher Zero's look and feel drew me towards it this summer, and I ended up spending hours upon hours trying to crack open its many logic puzzles. It's a game where you have one simple action. You can turn a square in a grid on or off, you have to find the right combination of ons and offs to pass the level, and each level has rules that are never explained to you. However, the columns and rows are sometimes marked by a shape, let's say a circle or a square, and so it's on you to figure out what it means when a column is marked by a hexagon or a row is marked by two short lines, and you have to intuit what hidden rule sets they represent. This process of experimentation poked some deep itch in my human brain, a hunger to decipher what things mean and make positive outcomes happen. The game only has 114 very positive Steam reviews, and that's definitely not enough, so be sure to check this one out. That's Cipher Zero. If you're a child of the 80s or the 90s, it's pretty much a given that you've a place in your heart for shoot-em-ups, for the R-Types, Swivs, Xenons, and Smash TVs of the world. And Sektori is a thoroughly modern take on a classic genre. It's a difficult, pacey, twin-stick shooter that combines tenets of the genre like mob management, space management, power-ups, etc., with a dash of Vampire Survivors Collectathon and a pinch of roguelike build crafting. You're faced by waves and waves of enemies that appear in an arena that is constantly changing shape. Killing enemies yields coins that lead to power-ups, and getting as powerful as you can before the bosses is all important. There are welcome layers of complexity in how you can add or remove power-up branches from your pool using a card system, and it will take you a while to master these systems and beat even the most basic difficulty. The game was made by an ex-Housemarque dev who decided to carry on their mission to keep shoot-em-ups going, and for the record, I refuse to say the word shmup unless the world also agrees to start calling beat-em-ups bum-ups. But anyway, check out Sektori on Steam, where recent reviews are overwhelmingly positive. There are only 400 of them, so it's an underappreciated gem of the year. That's Sektori. Sometimes you find a game that has such a serious, heavy, big vibe that it sells everything else they're doing to the player, and that is definitely true of Hypogea. It's a 3D platformer at heart, but if that genre name summons up images of Mario 64 and Spyro and Astrobot, then Hypogea is not that. It's a lonely sci-fi parkour game where you play as a broken humanoid robot who's recovered from a trash heap at the bottom of a giant well. When your power cell is sparked to life, your task is simply to go upwards and keep going. You'll unlock doors by powering them up with batteries that you find in obscure nooks and crannies. There are lever puzzles to open gates, and you can find obscure memories in dark corners that tell you a little bit about the past of this world that you're in. The parkour itself is fun with unique pole vaulting mechanics, but it's a little bit slippery and janky at times, which is why this game didn't make my Games of the Year list. I had my fair share of fall deaths when I really felt like I should have caught that chain or ledge, but nevertheless, this is a game that is absolutely worth playing. It is self-published by a solo developer, and it only has 400 odd reviews on Steam, so be sure to drop a review if you enjoy it. That's Hypogea. Another notable solo dev project from 2025 is Dawnfolk by Darren Keller, and if you've ever tinkered around with the original SimCity or other tile-based strategy builder type games, then Dawnfolk will make you feel immediately at home. It's a game that takes a little bit of that village building vibe and mixes it with a miniature version of 4X expansionist gameplay. It mixes these together into something that feels almost like an arcade game. You start off with a little home base and you have to chop wood, build houses to attract people, farm crops to feed them, and then decide what tasks to apply them to, be it exploration or war or building more ambitious structures. But it takes away all of the complexity and difficulty that goes with learning this kind of game. Each level is a small puzzle, and there's a story here too, with a darkness that seems to encroach and want to wipe everything out that you're building. And I think the light touch narrative really helped to pull me into this game and to pull me through to credits and engage in learning all of its systems. There are also daily maps, challenge modes, and an endless builder mode to unlock if you get super into it. This is a great little game that's absolutely perfect for your PC handheld if you have one of those. It's my kind of cozy game, and it only had 466 reviews at the time that I was recording this. At the time of recording, it's also on sale for only $10 on Steam, which is a steal. That's Dawnfolk. The next game is Many Nights a Whisper, which actually did make the 10th place in my Games of the Year list in the end, so it's probably the game on this list that I most recommend that you play. It only has 536 Steam reviews, which seems like an absolute crime given how good this game is. It's a 1.5-hour adventure in which you play a young archer who has to make an improbable shot into a giant stone chalice which is about 1 kilometer away. If you make a shot, the dreams of the world will all come true, and if you miss, none of them will ever happen. By night, you hear the wishes from the people of the country, and by day, you just practice and practice and practice until the fateful night comes and you have to take the shot. I absolutely adored my time with this. It felt fresh, original, and lovingly made. Best of all, this game is only $4. It's an absolute steal, so check it out. That's Many Nights a Whisper. The The next game on my list was actually published by Thunderful, a fairly sizable indie publisher, and it's made by a mid-sized team of around 25 people, and it launched on Game Pass day one, so I know that for some of you this might be stretching the definition of indie, but I wanted to include it here because I think the game is just so good. It only has 600 reviews on Steam, and that is way too low for me because I think this is the most addictive, approachable Hades-like of the year, including Hades 2. It's an all-action, top-down roguelike set in the whimsical world of Random, where life and death are in the roll of a dice, and you battle through 4 dungeons to meet the final boss. There's a lot of charm and cleverness in this iteration of that winning Hades formula. The visuals are lovely, with a Nightmare Before Christmas, pop gothic kind of vibe. The soundtrack has a cursed carnival feel, and the power-up system is really clever too in how it all slots together. Best of all, it doesn't outstay its welcome. I saw credits at about 20 hours, unlike the 100 plus that you'll need to put in to see all of Hades, so don't overlook this one, especially if you want a more concise, approachable Hades-like that's lost in Random, the Eternal Die. Back to the smaller side of the scale, and the Dark Queen of Mortholme is a self-published solo dev project where we play as the titular Dark Queen. She is the final boss of a pixel art Souls-like who sits in armor on her cold throne, ruling her kingdom with an iron fist, and when a tiny warrior scampers in to challenge her, she kills them with a single blow, leaving their broken body in a pool of blood and taking to the throne again. But soon enough, that same warrior returns, and though she swats them down easily, they keep coming back again and again and again. So it puts us in the shoes of a final boss who has to deal with this pesky player that just keeps coming for you again and again and again and getting stronger every time. It's an experimental short-form game that's only a half-hour long, but it's a really interesting little tale. I enjoyed it as a little meta-commentary on the nature of games and repetition, and somehow it also manages to squeeze in a psychological journey for the Dark Queen. What does it mean for a tyrant who has ruled alone for eternity to suddenly have an irrepressible challenger? It's only $5 and it has a very positive rating from 783 reviews. That's an interesting little indie experiment from this year, the Dark Queen of Mortholme. The next game that I'm going to talk about is the first one that has over 1,000 reviews. It has 1,100 Steam reviews, so while it's a bit more popular, remember that it still has less than 1% of Silksong's reviews. Duchy is a clever little strategy game that went a bit under the radar this year. It's a roguelike, but before you skip ahead, it's a really good one. It mixes together 3 main different elements. The first is a roguelike deck builder where you unlock new structures to deploy in in-round battles, like a garrison or a mountain fort. The second is a Tetris-like game where you slot the environment together, hopefully to your advantage. And then the third is the war section, where you select an order of actions and then watch it all play out to see if you beat the computer or not. It's one of those games that is harder to describe than it is to see it in action, so maybe you can see from the footage what I'm talking about. And I really loved my time with this game. There are some challenging boss levels with new map conditions. The longevity is provided by some unlockable factions that turn your playstyle on its head, like a religious faction where you can take over enemy bases by instilling them with faith in your cause. So if you'd like a light, accessible deck builder with puzzle strategy elements, then this is a perfect candidate. I really like the atmosphere too. It has this sort of folky medieval feel about the whole thing that was quite appealing, and I have to say it was very cozy to play on deck. That's Duchy. Check it out. I was very surprised to see that this next game has 1,500 reviews because it feels more obscure than almost anything else on this list. It's a cursed little 1-hour indie game called Carimara, Beneath the Forlorn Limbs. It's part first-person exploration game, part supernatural mystery, and you play as a Carimara, a mute spirit who communicates only through cards. You've been summoned by a bog witch to help her with a mysterious problem. She won't even tell you what it is, so you have to investigate the situation by collecting cards from observing things in the game's wonderfully wavy world. For example, if you find a skeleton or a berry bush or a murderous owl who haunts the garden, you will get a card for them. You can then play that card to someone else who will tell you what they know about that subject. The game is simply fascinating to look at. It has a wonderfully gnarly look where everything's always moving. I especially like the faces of the people you talk to. They kind of loom over you because you're so small, and they pull macabre, terrifying facial expressions. I will say that you need to use some lateral thinking to solve the case, and I personally didn't feel that the clues were quite clear enough, or maybe I'm just bad at detective games. I think that's probably the truth, actually. But even if you're bad at detective games like me, this is a game that is definitely worth seeing. It's a strange, esoteric little art project that's stuck in my mind this year, and it's just $5 on Steam. That's Carimara, Beneath the Forlorn Limbs. The The final game on this list is Vaders, which is in a similar vein to Drop Duchy, but with a very different energy. This one has 1900 Steam reviews, so I guess it's the game that you're most likely to have heard about on this list. It's a turn-based battler in a sci-fi setting where you control a mech who's trying to fend off waves of enemies that come down the screen like Space Invaders. Between battles, you can power up your mech with game-changing abilities. You're confronted by new enemies that require new strategies all the time and variants on enemies that you're familiar with. And there are some fiendishly tricky bosses that use the arena in different ways to their advantage. When you finish a run with one pilot, you will unlock another, and they have completely different playstyles, from a ranged mech with an overheating problem to a samurai-style melee mech that really does change things up. For example, the first mech is ranged, so it's all about keeping range, staying away from enemies and trying not to overheat, but the second mech is a mech that needs electrical charge and gets that by moving, so you have to charge in and hit enemies close for close quarters damage, which really did keep things fresh and made me feel like I was learning the game over again. I played this one at launch and there were some unreasonable difficulty spikes in the game, but I understand it's undergone some significant rebalancing since then. Steam players agree, and it has 1900 overwhelmingly positive reviews at this point. That's Vaders. And if you haven't heard me talk about it before, then please let me tell you about this channel's Patreon. It's only $1 a month. You get an invitation to a very cool community of over 200 indie game lovers who you can hang out in our private Discord, talk about indie games, find out about new games, share games you've discovered with people, including me, who will play them and check them out. And at the moment, I have a handful of free game codes to give to new patrons, including PlayStation 5 codes for 1000 Times Resist, and Steam codes for Ultros and Citizen Sleeper, 3 of my favorite indie games ever made. So as well as supporting me and joining the community, you will literally get a free game. I'll be working hard to talk to developers and keep those codes coming for patrons that upgrade. If you are a patron already and you upgrade, then you will get a game code too. Link on the screen now to join. And a big thank you to recently joined members Lucas, Braden, Jack, MTN Dill, Dr. St. Clair, Nate, Callum, Jason, Aliboy and Zhao. And a special thank you as always to the boss tier patrons ShyGuy, KingChamp, Drellesh, SusannaMaria, Nate and Cerys. And with that, let's get on with the video. Now and then I get people send me peripherals to try out for the channel. One of the things that I was sent was a Turtle Beach Atlas 200 wired headset, which is licensed specifically from PlayStation. Now, a while ago, I splurged on a Sony Pulse Elite headset. They're $150, and honestly, that's a bit too expensive. This Turtle Beach headset will set you back only $50, so it's a budget option. Being wired means that you have to pop the plug into the controller, but it will never run out of battery like the Sony headset does. And it also does support spatial audio, so you get that 3D audio sound while you're playing. I tested this headset out and I found that the foam around the earpieces was really comfortable and left a lot of room for my glasses. I found that the mic quality was a little bit tinny, but good enough for multiplayer audio. And if you think about the fact that this is a third of the price of Sony's Pulse Elite, which is a luxury purchase and somewhat overpriced, I think that the Turtle Beach Atlas 200 is actually a really good budget option, so thanks to Turtle Beach for sending me this unit to check out. It was pretty good. I also got another package from Snakebite, who have started making Switch 2 accessories. They sent me an Ergo Switch 2 grip. That is the hunk of plastic that Joy-Cons can click into to make them into a controller. You do get one with your Switch 2, but I think that this one is a slight upgrade. It's maybe for a certain use case. It has a USB-C slot on it so you can charge it while you play. So I think that a lot of these Snakebite accessories are for families. They also sent me a quad charge Joy-Con charger, which charges 4 Joy-Cons at a time. Obviously, most people won't need that, but if you've got, 4 kids, if you've got a family, if you're always having friends over and playing a lot of Mario Kart using the Joy-Cons on their side, then you will need to charge, 4 plus Joy-Cons at a time. So the quad charge is a really good device for that. But best of all, they sent me 2 Snakebite controllers. These are wireless gamepads for the Switch. It's the S2 model. These are really cool third-party gamepads, actually. They have Hall effect sticks that promise to be free from drift. They are very comfortable. I found them to be a nice size. They're not too chunky, but they do feel substantial. I was sent a transparent model and a black model. I preferred the black one. It had a matte plastic finish, which felt nice on the hands. The transparent one looks cool, but it's glossy, and so it attracts a lot of fingerprints. Both have very bright LED lights that you can either program how you want or turn off to save battery. They are wireless hand controllers, so battery does matter. I will say that they had downsides. You need to use a dongle to connect to the Switch 2, unlike a Nintendo Pro controller, which takes up an input in your Switch 2 and is a little bit easy to lose if you're taking things in and out. But the worst part was that they both needed a firmware update to work with the Switch 2, which meant that I need to wire them up to a Windows PC. I run Macs, so I had to use my ROG Ally, get a little hub, plug it in, get the controller plugged in, get the dongle plugged in, download software, and then update both of them using a special app, which probably took about 40 minutes all told. I think that this is something that Snakebite really should have taken care of themselves, like in the warehouse, even if it means unboxing these controllers and updating them with Switch 2 software, rather than pushing all of that work onto thousands of customers all around the world. So I would hesitate to buy them if that puts you off. But overall, I think the quality of the controller is quite good, especially given that they are literally half the price of an official Nintendo Pro controller. So definitely good for families if you're looking to get more controllers in the house. So thanks to Snakebite for sending those over. Thanks very much for watching the video. And until the next one, take care of yourselves and each other. And bye-bye for now.